All right, Larry Krueger here from Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er post-draft video. Check out Pig in a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open in Marin County from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., and they're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. All right, one of my favorite things to do is to look at these undrafted free agents. Man, the Niners do a great job at finding these gems in the late rounds of the draft. George Kittle, DJ Jones, Brock Purdy, and others, Jawan Jennings. And then after the draft, Raheem Mostert, Kevin Givens, Azeez Al-Shaair. The Niners have an incredible eye for, got undrafted free agent talent, and they do a great job at targeting their guys and somehow negotiating with their agents and getting them signed. And this year is no different. And one guy to remember is Khalan Laborn, a running back from Marshall, who played 6 years of college football. Virginia Beach, Virginia kid, 5'11", 212 pounds, transfer from Florida State. Incredible story. Rated as a 5-star prospect in the class of 2017. Played at Bishop Sullivan Catholic High School. Rivals.com made him a 5-star prospect. Everybody wanted Laborn. Bama, ASU, Auburn, Duke, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Miami, Ole Miss, North Carolina, NC State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Tennessee, Virginia, Vodtech, West Virginia, Charlotte, Old Dominion. They all wanted this kid. He was rated the nation's #1 all-purpose back by Rivals.com. He was ranked 23rd overall in the 2017 recruiting class by Rivals. It's an incredible story. If you know this kid's story, I didn't, and I just found out about it in the last few days. Really incredible. The guy played at 3 different high schools. As I said, he's from Virginia Beach, finished up at Bishop Sullivan, 5-star recruit, #1 rated all-purpose back in the country. As I said, everybody wanted him, but who landed him? Jimbo Fisher recruited this kid hard. And he went to Florida State, and he played well for Florida State, then suffered an injury to his kneecap, and eventually got dismissed from the team due to a rules violation. Don't know exactly what rule he broke, but he transferred to Garden City Community College in Kansas and just kept going. And the kid's a great story. He comes from a big family, 6 siblings. His dad was in the Navy, so the family moved around a lot. When he was a little boy, they lived for a while in Japan, so he's lived overseas. And as I said, he suffered that season-ending kneecap injury in the second game of the 2018 season. And, he after leaving Florida State, he did return to Florida State and completed his degree without playing football. Sat out all of 2021 and 2020, but he had college football eligibility remaining. So he enrolled at Marshall in the fall of 2022, playing for the Thundering Herd. And what a year he had this last year. But let's talk a little bit about his profile, because he's got elite stop-and-start quickness. What do you need to be a good running back? You got to make people miss in space. This guy does. He's got stop-and-start quickness for days. He's got a real nose for the end zone. He can shake defenders with pretty much ease. Great 40 time. I mean, he's not a burner, but 4.44 speed. His 3-cone was 6.92, which was a real high number. Great 3-cone. 38.5-inch vert. So you got lower body explosion there. That's great vertical. 23 bench press reps. That means the kid is diligent. That tells me he's diligent. You don't get 23 reps on the bench unless you're strong. And you don't get 23 bench reps unless you work at it, unless you spend a lot of time in the weight room. So dislocates the kneecap at Florida State, transfers, goes to Marshall, has an incredible year, but wasn't invited to the combine, even though in his pro day he recorded the best 3-cone drill of any back. He was a 5-star athlete, real compact running back, tremendous burst. So, this is an incredible story of perseverance. The kid didn't play in 2020. He didn't play in 2021. What I think Bobby Turner's going to love about him is he's great in pass protection. He's a bulldog as a blocker in space. He takes it personally. This guy likes to play football, and he likes the contact, but he'll do all the little things. He'll do the dirty work. 2019 as a freshman for the Seminoles, he saw action in 10 games. He ran for 4.7 a carry, 297 yards, caught 10 balls as a receiver. And then eventually when he transferred to Marshall, that was his sophomore year in 2022. He played 12 games in 2022, rushed for 1,445 yards, 5.1 a carry, 16 touchdowns, 5 fumbles, caught 17 balls in the passing game. He's got good straight line speed. He really does. And you can see it on film. The guys take bad angles against Laborn. And he's got great flexibility. This guy can turn the corner. He can get to the edge. As far as, full speed cuts, I mean, all the top running backs, when they cut, they maintain their speed. He does as well. He's very effective on fly sweeps. Solid receiver, can catch the ball out of the backfield, catches it naturally in the flat. He can run through tackles on the edges. He's a chain mover. He's a flexible player. He's got a good catch radius. You don't got to put it on his hands. He'll make catches away from his body. He's got a good radius. He's got great feet, and he's got great feel for running between the tackles. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Elijah Mitchell from a year ago, or from a couple years ago, as far as the draft is concerned. He knows how to pick and slide between the tackles. He's got instincts. He's a natural runner. This guy's got good vision. He's got good patience. And he'll pick and slide through a defense. He's a compact runner, doesn't give you a lot to hit. And he's just that blend of balance. Great. He's very agile. He's got great running back instincts. And he's just a determined young man. That's another thing I like about this kid. He writes his goals down on a piece of paper, and then he looks at that paper every day. I thought that was really, really cool. And when you watch him on film, you can see the twitch. This guy will break your ankles. I mean, he's got twitchiness. There's going to be a lot of defenders lunging at open space and grasping for air. This guy he's got vision, but he's got the ability to make you miss. And the other thing is, because of his story, there's not a lot of tread on those tires. He doesn't have a lot of mileage. He's coming off a year where he had 1,500 yards. He says his favorite backs to watch, or at least guys were like Adrian Peterson and Chris Johnson. One of his favorite things is to play the video game FIFA. He loves the FIFA soccer game and plays it a lot. But just an incredible story. Really a great story, and a guy who, it's a story of redemption. He's a 5-star guy, some bumps in the road, has to go to the JUCO route, still went and got his degree, transferred to Marshall because he loves football. And man, what a year he had this year. I mean, let's go through what this cat did this year. 281 yards in the regular season, 1,423 yards, 5.1 a carry. It started in early September against Norfolk. They won 55-3, the Herd did. He had 12 carries for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's right, 8.5 yards a carry in week 1. All right, that's Norfolk. Can you do it in South Bend in week 2 against Notre Dame? Well, guess what? He was the reason the Thundering Herd beat the Golden Domers in South Bend. It was 26-21 Herd. And Laborn, 31 carries, 163 yards and a touchdown, 5 yards a pop. Okay, Notre Dame's got a physical defense, though. How did he do the next week against Bowling Green? Oh, it was an overtime game. He had 24 carries for 157 yards this time and 2 touchdowns, 6.5 yards a pop. How about Troy the next week in Alabama against Troy? They got the great Carlton Marshall, the leading tackler in the country. Didn't matter. He still had 30 carries for 118 yards, 4 yards a pop, and a touchdown. Gardner Webb the next week, 35 carries for nearly 2 bills. He went for 191, 5.5 a carry, 2 more touchdowns on the ground. Against the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana in October, 26 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Against James Madison, really up-and-coming program, in Virginia there, 30 carries against James Madison, 151 yards, 5 yards a pop, 2 touchdowns. How about Coastal Carolina? They were a good team. They held him to 59 yards on 16 carries, 3.7 a carry, but still got into the end zone. But he bounced back the very next week with 31 carries against Old Dominion for 139 yards. Appalachian State, 18 carries for 53 yards, only 2.9 a carry, but he got in the end zone in that game. Next week, 17 carries for 70 yards, 4.1 a carry. Maybe he was starting to be run down a little bit. But then late November, right around Thanksgiving, last regular season game of the year for Marshall, 11 carries, 100 yards. He, in his last game, after toting the rock a ton, 270 carries he had going into that last game, he still went for 9.1 a carry and 2 touchdowns. So it's not like this guy's a lock to make the roster. The Niners have Christian McCaffrey. They got Elijah Mitchell. They got Jordan Mason, Ty Davis-Price. There's another undrafted free agent back named Ronald Awatt, who played at UTEP, who's a hell of a player. Hughes checks on this roster, obviously. They just gave significant bonus money to Jack Coletto to leave Oregon State and sign with the Niners as an undrafted backup fullback. So the Niners have a bunch of backs, and they're probably only going to keep 5 or 6. But when you watch the Niners this summer, look for Khalan Laborn. And by the way, it's not Laborn. His dad doesn't want it pronounced Laborn. His name is Khalan Laborn. And he's a tough kid. He's a respectful kid. And he's persevered. Man, this guy's persevered. It hasn't been easy. But, man, the kid's talented. And the 49ers have a crazy eye for running back talent. So when you're going to training camp this summer, or if you're looking at the Niners in the preseason and you're looking for rookies that may come out of nowhere, who's going to be the next Jeff Wilson Jr., who's going to be the next Raheem Mostert, who's going to be the next Elijah Mitchell, late round guy, who's going to be the next Jordan Mason, undrafted guy, Khalan Laborn. Remember that name. All right, hope you enjoyed our 49er video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.